Hi, it's Rachel here with a quick tutorial showing you how you can use cereal box liner bags to make junk journal pockets. This tutorial was inspired by Natasha from Treasure Books, and I'll leave a link in the description if you would like to visit her very inspiring channel. So we're just starting by cutting a piece of card. I'm using double-sided because it's going to be a double-sided pocket, down to the size that I want. It can be any size as long as it fits the doubled up liner inside. I'm now cutting the ends off of the liner because it makes things difficult because it won't lie flat. So if you cut the end off, it'll just lie nice and flat, and then you can cut around the card. So I'm cutting here on the folds so that it will be double-sided, but you could do single-sided if you prefer. The cereal bags can be quite slippy, so if you're worrying about it slipping out of place, then just use a piece of washi tape to stick it down temporarily before it gets stitched. You can see that I've used the seam part of the bag, and I haven't worried about that, but you could always work around that and make it a smaller pocket if you didn't want the seam involved. By making the pockets double-sided, it makes it quite a tactile experience to open one up, because generally what I would do is slip one of these inside another pocket, and then you would have to lift this one out of it. So you'll get that crunchy sound as you open it up and flip it around in your hands. I decided to finish the bottom corners by rounding them with a corner rounder, and I didn't really worry about doing that with the plastic because I'll just snip that down with a pair of scissors later on once it's been stitched. As I work towards the other end, I snip that edge off as well to make it lie flat once again. It can be a little bit tricky to make sure that you get through both layers when you're cutting, so just make sure that you do that, otherwise it can be quite frustrating to find that you've only done one layer and then you have to cut round it all over again, like I did here. Now, one thing that I didn't do, which I recommend that you do, is clean the bag. I left some crumbs of, I think it was crunchy nut cornflakes in this one, and I do recommend that you give it a wipe with a baby wipe at least before making your pockets, because nobody wants to receive a journal with pieces of breakfast in it. With this next pocket, I just wanted to show that you can use cereal packets instead of acetate. So you can make some little windows because they are see-through, and it will act basically the same. It just adds an extra touch of texture. This is going to be a pocket with two little circle windows down at the bottom, and then that will just allow you to peek through any tags or journal cards that are in the pocket itself, and it just adds a little bit of interest. It is quite static, this stuff, so beware of that when you're handling it. It can stick to your hands and be quite frustrating, so I do recommend that you use some glue to adhere the sides down. And you will need to make sure that you've got the edges glued quite securely as well, because if you're slipping something behind, you don't want to be lifting up the plastic. I say it's plastic, I think it's plastic, I'm not quite sure. It must be some kind of plastic, I think. Okay, so now to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch around 3 edges. It's really simple. I've got all sorts of fancy stitches on this machine, but for some reason I decided to do them all zigzag. So that's what I did, just around 3 sizes. And then I left some little pieces of tassel of the thread. Sorry, I've gone out of shot here, but what I was doing is using some quilting clips to hold everything in place. So I just put those around the edges to make sure that that plastic doesn't slip, because it can quite easily get out of position. So you should probably use a couple more than what I've used here on the other sides as well, which I think I did a bit later on. The corners are the trickiest bit to do in my opinion. You can either go around in a smooth motion if you've done rounded corners, or you can just pivot with the needle down. I do absolutely love my sewing machine, and I would recommend it to anybody that's looking for a machine in the mid-range which has lots of abilities, including the stop-start button and decorative stitches, Also, it's got the ability to do free motion quilting as well. You can drop the feed dogs so that you can make all sorts of interesting stitches yourself. I will link it in the description if anybody is looking for a new machine. I probably rushed this stitching a little bit too much. I would recommend taking your time with it as well, because it's quite easy to get puckers in the plastic. As this pocket's going to be used in a vintage style journal, I'm going to ink the edges, as I always do. And that just gives it a bit of extra dimension and makes it look nice and coordinated with the vintage look. So that's what it looks like. You get a little peephole down the bottom where you can see your tags. Now for the other pockets, I'm just going to trim them down, make sure that all of the plastic is trimmed and looking nice and neat. And then just as a demonstration, you could add bookmarks, tags, journal cards, photographs that look nice as well. And it'll just give the photographs a nice, interesting background to lay against. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I thought it was a really cool idea and I'd never seen it before, so I thought it deserved to be resurrected. Thank you to Natasha for the inspiration. If you haven't already checked out her channel, then I'd definitely recommend that you do. She's got some great ideas on there. Please let me know if you've got any ideas of how we could take this further, and let me know if you try it at home as well. I'll see you on Friday for a craft along video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you then. Goodbye!